Guys, how crazy is it that we have to watch James extend his contract and save for 4 years? So a lot of people don't realize. Okay, so I'll explain this. I think a lot of people don't realize this. The longer a contract is in esports, it actually benefits the org. You know, if that, let's just say James performs better or whatever, like you clearly have him locked in. But the other thing is, like, typically salaries just fluctuate a lot. So if the org can get him in a position where like they feel comfortable with like where he's at, and they don't have to move it for 4 years. The other thing is in esports, very rarely have I ever seen a guaranteed contract. So in traditional sports, long contracts are seen as a good thing and as a positive and as a benefit to the individual rather than the organization. And it's more of a show of good faith from the organization side. But that's because when you cut people in traditional sports because of collective bargaining agreements, all that shit, you usually get hit with like a, you know, dead cap, right? Like you still have to pay that player XYZ amount of money no matter what. In esports, that's pretty rare. Whether guaranteed money or like a severance exists in some contracts, and it's been put in there more recently. But in general, like the org holds all the power. If the org wants to bench you or cut you, like at any moment's notice, for the most part, they usually can. This isn't, you know, this isn't like the NBA or the NFL or soccer or football, like whatever. Like it's, you know, when you cut somebody and then you still have to pay them. No. In esports, they bench your ass. They have to just pay you less because they decided to. And if they cut you, like, bye-bye. You might get like your next month's check. That's it. And I'm not trying to flame this person. I just see this take a lot. But I'm just trying to explain to you guys how long and how far we still have not come in a lot of ways. So that's where the disconnect is. Isn't this decided in contract negotiations? It is. And quite frankly, most organizations and most esports agencies are pretty fucking bad. I've seen some crazy, terrible contracts from some very large people in the space that are just, you know, it's laughable. It's really bad. Also, orgs hold a lot more leverage because let's just say your agent actually does a good job, puts a lot of things in there, and the org says no. The problem is the player is going to push their agency, right? They're not going to be like, the player wants to play. There is no like a place for them to fall back to. You know, it's a huge risk if James doesn't want to sign, right? Like say they push back and they say, no, we're not going to do meet any of these terms. And you're James, well, you still want to play and you're not really sure where else you can. It's just not as fleshed out, right? When you have talent and stuff like that, and like we're just so far off. Esports is still infant, you know, in the grand scheme of things. I mean, there's a players association, but the players association is quite literally more for show, and it's relatively weak overall. Because it requires players to make sacrifice for one another, and it's so, like I said, so fringe, like, so it's not well maintained. I feel like it's more of like a symbolic thing at this point, rather than something that I feel like is actively pushing for players in their best interest. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not. I mean, but anything worth like doing, right? Like is not. I'm just simply here. I'm just the messenger to explain how things are, right?
Keep up.
Oh, keep up. Peepo flute.